Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to teach you how you can pay low to no tax in your small business. Now, this is not a throwback to my 3,000 subscriber special. This is actually legitimately how you can pay less tax in your small business. The main thing that matters is structure. What structure are you using to run your business? And the reason I say that is if you have your structure sorted out, the structure will decide how the company or business will be taxed. For example, if you are running the business in a trust, which I do not recommend, the trust will pay 45% tax on profits. That's a different video all by itself. I do not recommend using trust. But the first structure, and this is possibly one of the wildest ones which nobody knows about, and accountants won't tell you about this one. It is called turnover tax. Now, if you're a company or a person and you're doing less than 1 million Rand a year, you can register for turnover tax, and the tax rates are between 0 and 3%. And think about that. When are you paying 0 to 3% on anything? VAT is 15%. Income taxes on an individual is 18 to 45%. But in any case, it's on turnover. And for the first 0 to 350,000, you are paying 0 tax. Then from 350 to 500,000, that is 1%. 500 to 750, it's 2%. 750 to 1 million, it's 3%. So a person can make 900,000 Rand in sales and only pay SARS about 14K from the 900,000. Blows my mind. So that's the first structure, turnover tax. The second one is called SBC, which is short for Small Business Corporation. And a small business corporation's tax rates are between 0 to 27%, and only certain businesses can register for SBC, and it has certain limitations, but basically the turnover must be below 20 million and the shareholding must be individuals that doesn't have shareholding with other companies. But outside of those requirements, also there's professional services. That's an important point, which also applies to turnover tax. So that's just an interesting note to take there. Their tax rates are 0 to 27%, and if you fall into those categories, along with all the other deductions that they get, they can also pay almost no tax by running their business. It's a very, very, very tax efficient form of business. And I actually don't recommend turning the company for no reason into a PTY that is taxed at 27% if you can run it as an SBC. An SBC is probably one of the best small business setups or tax structures that you can make use of, especially in the first 3 to 5 to 10 years of a company, and if you don't have any group companies that owns the company. So the more complicated the structure, the more likely it is that you're going to have to pay more tax. The third structure is a PTY, and the nice thing about a PTY, a company that's registered with CIPC, and that applies to all companies. An SBC can also be is also a PTY. It just falls into certain requirements. But a PTY has a frozen tax rate of 27%, but it can have different types of shareholding, but the tax is always going to be 27%. There's a possibility that that rate might go lower in the future. And the other benefit of a company, whether it's an SBC or a normal PTY, is that it can claim assessed losses. The ability to claim losses is great because maybe in the next year you make a profit, the loss can get written off against it, and so you're going to pay less tax. But it's frozen at 27%. So whether you are making 10 million in profit or 1 million, it's 27%. So that's why SBC is a bit better than a PTY at 27%. Another one to mention about the PTY is there's less audit risk. Usually the financial statements are done, so SARS doesn't have alarm bells for a SBC or a PTY that much. Another structure, or the next structure, is an individual. If you trade in your own name, the tax rates are between 18 and 45%, and that's the big one, right? A lot of people are in that category and pays between 18 and 45%. It's also very risky from a SaaS perspective. You can't claim losses. They will disallow a lot of expenses. So individuals actually have a harder time justifying the costs in their own business and the taxes are quite hectic. The moment you go over a certain amount of profit, you're going to be taxed at 45% or at 39%, and that's a lot higher than a PTY, a small business, or turnover tax, which I mentioned in the beginning. So those are the main structures, and that's the point really. You can pay low to no tax by either registering for turnover tax, if it applies, or SBC. So ask your accountant about those two things. Anyway, that's the video. If you would like to know more, watch the next video, you can click here. Otherwise, you can consider subscribing. Cheers.